Ivy Valentine subscribes to Mark Yoon, so should you. Enjoy your treat!
So I posted my non-spoiler review on Friday, but on Monday I wanted to go into the spoilers of this awesome story of this game. There were some things that happened that surprised me, and I really want to get into all that, so buckle up and let's get into my spoiler review section of Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Alright, so the first thing that I want to talk about is, man, I loved how they fit certain things into this game that I did not expect. I didn't expect Agent Venom. I didn't expect Scream. I did not expect Carnage. I did not expect all of these things to happen. First, the ambiance of the whole thing. I know the Kraven stuff is cool too and fun, but can we just talk about how that Web of Shadows-esque style of the actual story played out? Like all the different nests and how there was all these like crazy like tendrils and tentacles going up throughout the city that just like created this overcast of venom in the area. I just loved how they depicted it. It was really fun to play through and go through. I did talk about a lot of the mechanics in the non-spoiler review. I kind of just want to cover story beats here because there's a lot to go over and I don't really want to bog it down with other parts of the review. This is kind of just the review of the story. So I already knew from a long time ago, obviously, from the end of Spider-Man 1, that Harry was going to be Venom pretty much. And though I was upset at first that it wasn't going to be Eddie Brock, because I'm a huge Venom fan, the way they pulled this off really had me in. I kind of really liked the interpersonal connection relationship between Harry and Peter, how they were so close, but then there was this void that was being caused by the symbiote and like the seeds of distrust between Harry and Peter because of his father's attention to Peter and everyone else, and Pete being like controlled by the symbiote later on and not giving it up to save his friend's life, even though Harry just wants to change the world with his best friend. That's like their whole thing, the whole reason that they're together. So though I feel the reasons aren't as strong as Eddie Brock's were portrayed originally, I do see the reason how the symbiote could manipulate Harry's brain into like going crazy against Pete. I thought it was even crazier that Scream showed up and Venom pretty much turned Mary Jane into Scream, and she's going crazy at Peter while they're fighting about all these kind of things that like would be like bubbling up about like MJ like being second plot or second fiddle to like Peter because he's this like big hero, right? A lot of these things going on that you can feel the tension underneath, all while they're trying to like figure out if they want to move in together or not. So that was like a really crazy like thing just even to see Scream in the game in general. Like I wasn't expecting to see any of the other symbiotes, especially not the life symbiotes like Scream, even though she's probably my favorite out of the group. It was pretty crazy. And then in the post story where we get that fire side quest, the crazy cultist, and you see Wraith show up, and not only is Cletus Cassidy the actual like leader of the cult, well, he's called something else, but then they literally say at the end, they were like, he's gone by other aliases, and Cletus Cassidy is like one of them. So it literally is Carnage. He has a symbiote. You can see that he has plans to utilize it. He gets away. Like it's happening. Whether or not that's going to be setting up for DLC or for the third game, I'm still not sure yet. But I'm just excited to see that regardless. There was a lot of little details here and there with the story in and of itself, and I really appreciate all of the nods that they actually gave. Like I said, Agent Venom was a cool one. I did not expect Agent Venom or Anti-Venom to show up, but the way that they got Harry to play this role with Peter as Agent Venom instead of Flash Thompson was really cool. And like it was like kind of throughout, it was a pretty short amount of time given the story's length, but I just loved to see that, and the fact that like he was actually there. Man, it just really makes me wish that some of these characters were also playable, or they were costumes that were unlocked. Like, I don't know, man. I just really want to play as, like, Agent Venom Harry now. You did get to play a little bit as Venom, which was pretty cool. I did actually really like that a lot. The fact that you can, like, ravage things up as Venom. And I think they did say that they're going to be working on a Venom solo game before Spider-Man 3. So, that is kind of cool to look forward to. Anti-Venom was also a surprise when it happened, because I literally didn't spoil myself on anything before like this game came out. I went into it blind. So the fact that Pete, with the help of Martin Lee Mr. Negative, who has now been reformed by Miles, imbues the symbiote, or imbues Pete with the Mr. Negative Energy, which transforms the symbiote that's already residing within Pete, that's not Venom, to become Agent Venom, like the antithesis of the symbiotes, was just like awesome to me. The fact that like the suits there is awesome. Another thing, the costumes in this game are so good. I know a lot of them are rehashes from the first game and the second game, but the ones that they add, like all the null symbiote god stuff, all of that storyline, like just Miles gets like a couple symbiote suits, so it's like really cool to have them. I'm gonna show them on the screen while we're talking about it. And Pete gets not only this version's symbiote suit and the anti-venom suit, but he also gets the secondary rage mode of the symbiote, like the almost transformed into Venom symbiote, which I use mostly. That's the costume I use the most. But then you also unlock classic symbiote Spider-Man later on, just with gaining levels. That was awesome right there. I do wish there were more options with the costumes. There are a lot, don't get me wrong, but the fact that there's no like Steel Spider-Man or the Spider Armor Mark 1 or any of that stuff, like, kind of let me down a little bit, but I still have the first game to play, so I can always just boot that up and go into it. We still have so many different like costumes that we can get into for even just Peter that haven't been touched on yet, like Cosmic Spider-Man. There's a Spider Carnage, which I'm sure will probably come with the DLC or whatever he actually goes up against Carnage. I don't know if the symbiotes are going to still play as large of a role with Carnage, but hopefully they do. I don't know. It's pretty cool, like, to fight against all those different ones. Like I said, it kind of referred back to me to Web of Shadows, so that was really cool there. Kraven was actually more of a threat than I thought he was going to be. The build-up for Kraven was actually kind of cool, and I actually started thinking of him as like a general threat instead of just being like this guy who's like slightly enhanced who like likes to hunt. Like, it was a lot of nods back to the comics and back to those storylines, like a couple of them mixed together. But the fact that like the fight was so crazy, and then when Venom just like bites Kraven's head off, it was like, okay, like this is a game, like we're really in it now. Like I said, like the lead up, like I said at the end, there's a scene at the end where Norman is like obviously mad, and he talks about the G serum, which is obviously the Goblin serum, to try and be an alternate way to save Harry, who's now in a coma. So obviously the next game they're settling up for the Goblin. Now what I'm thinking is like they went crazy with this one. So we got Goblin. Whether I don't think that's DLC, that's probably going to be a whole Spider-Man 3. But we have Carnage, which may be DLC, but if the symbiote's still out there, could we get Red Goblin? And I think that would be pretty awesome if we actually got that. I'm not sure if they would go that far, but it would be really cool and wishful thinking if they actually do. Beyond that, there were some other teasers in there. There was DLC set up, I think, for Chameleon. When you go through, apparently in this universe, Chameleon is Kraven's brother. So you see him setting it up at the end, just on the coffee, sipping some coffee on a rooftop, walking at Spider-Man being like, well, I got this, brother. So they're setting up a whole lot there. The Mysterio missions were pretty fun, and the Fire Cult missions were also equally fun. The rest of the missions were kind of bland. Like, I did like some of the stuff where you're like Peter. I don't like the science stuff that much. Like, they were more fun, I think, in the original game. The riding the bike one was really annoying, and especially just because of the way it controlled. The bee one was kind of fun, the robot bees. The plant ones I can like take or miss. Like, it was like whatever to me. But the Miles, like, where was Miles' story in this? Like, the whole time I'm thinking, and I've seen other people saying that like, oh, like Miles had like a great end to his like arc. I'm like, yeah, but they're setting up his arc for like being Spider-Man, right? But he didn't do anything in this, not to the end. He didn't do hardly anything. The whole most part of the game, like even before Venom shows up, you're like Pete trying to help Harry, and Harry's like trying to help Pete, and like Miles is like just like whining about how like Pete's kind of forgetting about him. Meanwhile, instead of doing these cool, awesome side missions, besides the Mysterio one, because I do like the Mysterio ones, Miles is out there just like doing community stuff. Like, that is not even really being Spider-Man. Like, he helped like get a mascot back, and then you play as like his love interest or his girlfriend, and the whole thing is like, let's just do graffiti or cover up graffiti on like walls. And I'm like, okay, like this is ultra lame. Like, sorry, no offense, but to me, I'm just like, what is this? Like, what are we doing here? Like, Miles even has, like, another stealth mission, and it's like, come on, dude, you're Spidey now. Like, I just want to play as Spider-Man. Like, the Mary Jane stealth missions were a lot better in this one, especially because, like, she gets that web gun thing attached to her taser, and the fact that she has her tasers and stuff. I felt like it was a lot better in this than it was in the last game. It was less frustrating. I never failed any of the stealth missions. The last one was kind of fun. The one in the zoo was fun. The one against the symbiotes where you have to, like, web them up is really fun, too. Just, I don't know, there was a lot to this. Like, setting up at the end also that, like, Doc Ock is, like, planning something else for the next game or whatever with Norman. I'm thinking, I'm like, are they setting up the Sinister Six? Like, possibly, but then they got, like, Carnage involved, and and then Chameleon, but Carnage and Chameleon might honestly be DLC for this game, honestly, and then the next game will be, like, a Sinister Six type thing. But we'll have to wait and see, like, what Marvel and Insomniac come up their sleeves for that. But I don't know, like, there's so much here to cover. It's, like, so hard to, like, get it all just out in, like, one, like, kind of 10 to 15 minute video, you know what I mean? Venom's portrayal was awesome. Like, I thought this is the best portrayal I've seen of Venom in any medium. Like, whether it be movie, I'm not, like, a really huge fan of the Sony Venom movies. I think the character depiction is, like, way off from, like, what it is. But it feels like Insomniac actually gets the feel of, like, who Venom is. So even though it wasn't Eddie Brock, I wasn't, like, too perturbed by it while I was actually playing the game. I have 100%ed it, so there's, like, nothing really to do left except for, like, swing around and stop crimes, but I got a bunch of new cool costumes to do that in. But the way that, like, they just told this story just really had me enthralled from start to finish. I really didn't want to do any side quests, and I, in fact, didn't really do any side quests until after I beat the main story. I didn't even level up my gear that much. I forgot to do the focus to get the 3 focus bars, so I had a friend remind me. I literally beat the game with 1 focus bar. And I don't know how I did that. Like, there were some torturous parts. The fact that, like, Venom gets the Null stuff where, like, he's got the symbiote wings was, like, crazy. And then you see the spiral for, like, Null. There's a lot of cool stuff and a lot of cool nods to that. I don't know if they'll do Null. That seems like too of an overarching thing, like, just to have, like, Spider-Man and Miles go up against. Unless they brought in, like, Harry and then Eddie at some point, or maybe even Flash, but, like, that's more of, like, a whole Marvel kind of thing. Like, I would feel like they would do that deal with, like, some of the X-Men and some of the Avengers and stuff like that all together. But I don't know, there's so much there to talk about. The story's not that long, but, like, what was there and what we played was, like, super cool and super fun to play as. The fact that Watanabe Yuri is there as, like, Wraith now, and she's, like, kind of an anti-hero was a little weird. I don't understand how she could do the things that she could do. That wasn't really, like, presented or set up in any such way. She just was like, oh, I'm just gonna kill people with this, like, weapon, and Spider-Man can't stop me. Okay, cool. Just, like, I wanted a little bit more backstory there, just to understand, like, what she was going through. But having Martin Lee, like, turn over a new leaf was pretty cool, and then the whole missions with Sandman, they didn't pay off as well as I thought they would. I thought we were gonna get some grandiose, like, cinema at the end, but the fact that he just dropped the crystal off at, like, his daughter's house and she just, like, gets it, I was like, okay, cool. But I wanted a little bit more than that. I did say before, like, my most hated part about the game was probably the missions where you had to go into the slip screen to catch those drones and download the data. I hated that. It was just, like, stressful, I guess, but the rest of the game I had fun playing. It was a blast to play. I'm definitely going to play it again on another harder difficulty just to see the cinematics again. I didn't record too many of the cinematics for this review. I just did a bunch of, like, symbiote hives and showed the costumes and stuff, but I did make sure to, like, 100% the game before I made this review. So if you want to hear what I think about, like, the actual gameplay mechanics and stuff, then check out my last video, which should be at the end of the end card here. That's my non-spoiler review. And that's where I really go into the game's, like, mechanics and stuff like that. Again, I wish that Miles did more besides end his own thing. I wish he did more with Pete, like, instead of just, like, you know, doing all this community stuff, like helping set up for homecoming and getting, like, 2 of his friends together and trying to rescue a mascot and not even helping, just watching his friend spray paint over bad spray paint. I don't know. There was, like, so much more that could have been done. The potential there, like, in his own game, he did a lot better, cooler stuff than he did in this game. And this game, Pete's like, wow, like, you're the new Spider-Man. And I'm like, really, though? Is he really? Like, I like Miles, don't get me wrong, but they shoehorn him in the comics to doing like everything. Like he's had like Wolverine's powers, he's had the Venom symbiote, he's had the Carnage symbiote. I think he's had Thor's powers. Like he's literally just run the gambit of getting everybody's powers. But he's a cool character on his own, like with his own, like the Venom Blast and stuff is all unique. I wish they would just stick more to that and tell his own stories instead of just kind of shoehorning him in as being like the main character. I like Miles, don't get me wrong, but that's not a way that you write a character in my book. But I wish he did more in this, and I don't know, maybe he will in the next iteration of the game. Maybe he'll be the forefront and Pete will just be the side, but time will tell, and we'll see what happens with that. So thank you for sitting through my ramblings of my spoiler review. I liked the story a lot. If I was going to rate the story on its own, I would give the story like a 9 out of 10. I gave the game an 8 out of 10 overall. There's a lot of bugs and the side missions kind of suck, but I really liked this game, and this might be my game of the year. Maybe. There's been a lot of great games, but this may take the cake for me. But I wish it was a bit longer. Can't wait for the DLC, and let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you want to talk about this or anything else, please feel free to join the Discord. And as I always say, guys, I love it. Thank you.
And thank you.